Hi, I'm Jane Rudolph.
And I'm Monsignor Charles Minor.
I'm Father Joe Glass. Welcome to Reel to Reel.
Well, we're in the midst of Advent, but this is kind of a joyous day in Advent because of a very special feast day, and what is it?
It is St. Nicholas.
St. Nicholas, yes. Sure. In fact, in my family, we received gifts on St. Nicholas, hanging up our stockings.
Oh, we never did that. We're lucky to receive gifts on Christmas.
Not put out shoes? I thought you put out shoes.
Well, we did stockings. We kind of Americanized it.
Yes, what is it, little wooden shoes?
Yes,
is that the tradition or something? Get little wooden candy.
It's amazing what you learn on Reel to Reel.
Wooden nickels.
Well, speaking of learning quite a bit, tonight we're going to continue our series called Viewpoint. And Father Francis Barszewski is going to talk about a very serious question, the medical or the moral decision on the right to die.
And Mike Gallagher will tell us Arts Review about some decisions that had to be made both sides of the camera, the director and the viewer.
We'll continue our walk through history with the people of the Camden Diocese, and later on I'll be speaking with State Representative Stephen Friend about his pro-life activity and the legal questions it raises.
When you're actively involved in any kind of a movement, such as pro-life, you have so much time that's given to that you really have a good feeling about yourself. But if you've ever had one of those days when you wake up in the morning and wonder what's in store, you have a habit of kind of falling into self-pity.
It's too bad that self-pity becomes that pity, because to begin with, our Lord tells us we must love our neighbor as ourselves. Therefore, to love ourselves becomes a very important thing. The integration of these loves can be seen very well if you look at the Retired Senior Volunteer Program.
Retirement, a time when we are supposed to relax and enjoy our golden years, but all too often, retirement simply means empty time. There is a program especially designed to fill this time with meaningful activities. It's called RSVP, and it is just one of the many programs of Catholic Social Services in the Archdiocese of Philadelphia.
RSVP is the Retired Senior Volunteer Program, and it is a part of ACTION, which is the Federal Domestic Volunteer Agency. And they have in their program the Foster Grandparent Program, Senior Companion, and VISTA. And RSVP recruits adults 60 years old and over and places them in volunteer positions throughout the country. They can be professionals, non-professionals, homemakers. There's an RSVP in every county throughout the United States. Last year there were over 355,000 volunteers working in over 700 projects. What we ask the volunteer to do is to have a desire and to make a commitment of at least 4 hours a week. We provide insurance for them, we provide meals, and we also provide transportation. Before the volunteers place, we interview each volunteer, find out what their goals are, what they would like to do, and maybe it's something new that they would like to learn. We interview them, we have an application we complete, and then we set up an appointment with a potential site. We then accompany the volunteer to the site, and we sit down with the site director and with the volunteer, and we work out a job description and the hours that that volunteer will work. So we're supportive throughout the whole process.
The very nature of RSVP provides valuable services to organizations that depend upon volunteers, including the Boarding Home Advocacy Team, an organization that looks after the lifestyles of boarding home residents.
We have an ongoing volunteer program whereby we bring persons in and train them to go into the personal care boarding homes we have. With RSVP, primarily they know of our need for volunteer services, and if they have someone who they feel could fill our need, then they will call, make contact with us. It's very helpful. Could be more helpful if they had more volunteers to send us.
Well, I like people, and I wanted to help in some way after I retired, so I heard the advertisement on TV, and I decided to call. And when I called, I was able to talk with someone that said, come right in and let us interview you and let's get started. And this was my first assignment. It's given me a sense of being somebody that's helping somebody, and to get ready each morning to come here was like getting ready to go to my job. It makes you feel good to know that you are doing something to help someone. Everyone that has retired or has time that they're not doing anything, it would be so wonderful for them to get involved, because the pleasure you get out of helping these people really makes your life worthwhile living.
The areas in which to volunteer are as diverse as the volunteers themselves. Frank Ciociola and Marilyn Rosenwald have been lawyer advocates at the Philadelphia Commission for Older People for 3.5 years. There they handle a variety of simple legal problems for the aged.
I always had a great fear of waking up in the morning and wondering how I was going to spend my time that day. Somebody recommended RSVP, and through them I was able to get into the Elderly Law Project that was being sponsored by the Community Legal Services. It has helped to occupy my time and my mind. I've been able to keep myself active, and I have also been able to help low-income people who sometimes don't know where to go for help. I would recommend it very highly, and I think RSVP does a marvelous job of placing people where they feel they're qualified and where they can perform a good service during their retirement years.
I was recently widowed at the time, and I heard about this RSVP, and I went to the Bar Association school for 10 weeks to learn about these forms and things we could handle. The fact that I ended up helping people just turned out to be an extra bonus, because I admit selfishly I did it for my own therapy in the beginning. Keeping physically active is just not enough when you're retired. If you don't think once in a while, you'll just decay. Yes, I would recommend it, especially for people that let themselves go inactive. It helps to keep your mind clear, and you also meet some very interesting people, and people that turn up with peculiar problems.
Although Frank and Marilyn grapple with a wide variety of legal problems, sometimes the request is even out of their league.
For example, I had a man come in here. He wanted to know how he could get away from reporting to his parole officer, right? And he said, you know, I want to get out of it. He said, I'm tired of it. I said, well, how long were you in jail? And he said, 16 years. And I said, what were you in for? He said, murder. So I said to him, were you guilty? And he said, the hell does that matter? And I sent him to Judicare. I got rid of him.
The goals for RSVP is to make sure that every adult age 60 and over has some input back into the community, because they have so much to provide to the community. All of their knowledge that they have gained throughout their life experiences is so important. Our volunteers are giving something back to the community. And last year, our 550 volunteers gave over 129,000 hours back to the community. And for that, you know, we're really pleased.
So volunteerism is not just a system whereby you become busy about something, but real volunteer work makes you active, so young and old. If you're a volunteer, you're in the activity.
Please stay active and stay with Reel to Reel tonight, because we've got so much more on tap. We want you to stay with us.
Hello, I'm Monsignor Charles Minor. Since 1981, Reel to Reel has proclaimed the good news by bringing you stories of Christian faith in action. We do it by roaming the Delaware Valley, searching for people of faith, of hope, and of charity. But like all modern media, it is an expensive proposition. If you're a new viewer, or if you've enjoyed Reel to Reel for many years, we would like to thank you for watching and invite you to participate by actively supporting the show. Today, with costs rising all around us, we need your financial support. A donation of $5, $10, $20, or whatever you can send would help ensure the continued presence of this program. Send your contributions to Reel, 222 North 17th Street, Room 907, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 19103. And thank you.
You've learned a lot in your life. Share the experience of a lifetime.
You've always got a friend on Reel to Reel, but tonight, literally, you've got a friend on Reel to Reel. State Representative Stephen Friend is joining us. Welcome to the set of Reel to Reel, Steve.
Thank you, Father. It's nice to be here.
I'm glad you're here. A little port in the storm, perhaps. Your name has been in the news quite a lot in the last few weeks in connection with the 1987 abortion control bill. It's officially Bill number 1361. Can you tell us a little about that bill and what you hope it does?
Yeah, you have to remember that Pennsylvania has always been blessed with the most pro-life legislature in the United States. Time and again, we've stood on the side of life. In 1982, we passed the most extensive abortion control act in America. About 70% of that was ruled constitutional. About 30% last June was stricken by the United States Supreme Court. So what the new bill does is reinstate those provisions that were stricken in a manner which we feel will pass constitutional muster. Adds a few new provisions too.
Okay.
A couple of examples. The average person doesn't realize right now that a 12-year-old girl can have an abortion, not only without her parents' consent, but without the parents even being notified. Needs parental consent for having the ears pierced, but can have an abortion without the parents even being notified. What our bill does is require the consent of either one parent or approval of the court through a private expedited court procedure. This goes way beyond the abortion issue. The whole issue of family responsibility. Also, people don't realize that right now, even in a marriage, a woman can have an abortion without even notifying the father of the unborn child that their flesh and blood exist and is about to be killed. Our bill would require that the father of the unborn child at least be notified. We can't require consent. The courts would strike that, but we can require notification.
Now, there are those who say that we can't legislate morality. I'm sure you've heard that argument over and over again.
I hear that on occasions too numerous to mention.
Now, you are involved in the law, in the legislature, and you are a good Catholic, a parishioner of Annunciation there in Havertown. How do the two sides come together for you when morality and legislature comes together?
My stand on abortion, people ask me, are you Catholic? And I say yes, and their answer is, well, that explains it. I'm a Catholic, and I'm proud to be a Catholic. But that's not the reason I take the stand on the side of life. Abortion is not a religious issue. It's a human issue. And there's no doubt in my mind that I'd be supporting the unborn children, whether I were a Catholic, a Protestant, an atheist, or a Jew. Certainly in my Catholic background, I feel my Catholic education, 8 years of the IHMs, God love them, the Green Bay Packers of the Sisterhood, 8 years of the Augustinians, they gave me a lot of the values and the discipline, along with my family, that has made me be able to hang tough during some of these struggles up there. But to say it's a religious issue is ludicrous. It's a red herring. It's a human issue by which, quite literally, we're going to determine what we do with a considerable segment of the human race.
Okay, so you see no conflict there between the law getting involved in these kinds of issues?
Well, you know, when you stop and think about it, we already have laws which tell a man or a woman that they can't sell their bodies in prostitution. We have laws saying that you cannot ingest certain dangerous drugs into your body. We have laws telling you when you're allowed to drink. We have laws regulating suicide. Suicide is against the law. Very difficult to prosecute the successful perpetrator, but still, that's against the law. Time and again, since civilization began, the job of an elected body was quite literally to legislate morality. It's only when the abortion issue comes up that we hear that red herring.
Okay, all right. I'm sure there's a lot of folks viewing tonight who are very much interested in the whole pro-life movement and would like to support good, positive legislation on behalf of pro-life issues. What would you recommend they do? We often hear about writing to our representatives, our congressmen. Isn't it important to you?
Absolutely. I think letters are extremely important if they're done the right way.
What would that be?
Write to your legislator, not a form letter. It can be a short letter, but advising him or her of their interest in the bill, that they support it, and asking for the consideration of the legislator. Never threaten. Threats are counterproductive. Also, make sure that you always include your return address both on the envelope and on the letter. Nothing more frustrating to an elected official to want to respond and not have a return address.
Okay. Where do you see the pro-life movement going? You've been active in it for quite a while. What's the timeline look like? Where's it heading?
There's never been any doubt in my mind that ultimately we were going to prevail. America is a country that's had a propensity for making mistakes, but then rectifying those mistakes. Slavery, civil rights, apartheid, the issue in South Africa. Nothing can justify the killing of 1.5 million unborn children every year. That's 1 every 20 seconds, 3 a minute. Final victory for us in Pennsylvania will occur when the Supreme Court of the United States, and this may happen in the not too distant future with a change in the court, reverses the 1973 Roe versus Wade decision. And I've consistently said if the court reverses on a Tuesday, on a Wednesday we'll introduce a bill in the House which doesn't regulate or restrict or limits abortions, but ends the nightmare once and for all and outlaws abortions. And I can tell you with certainty that bill will pass the House, that bill will pass the Senate, and that bill will be signed into law by the pro-life governor of Pennsylvania, and that will be the happiest day of my life.
Yeah. How about just in closing, any thoughts on the other end of the pro-life issue with the right to die of the elderly and some of these issues?
Absolutely. In matter of fact, we're working on very important legislation, a patient's rights legislation, which we intend to pass this term, which makes sure we protect life at the other end of the spectrum. And that's an issue about abortion. You know, once the killing begins at any stage, say the unborn, it doesn't stop there. We have euthanasia bills introduced in 33 different states. We have to respect and revere the sanctity of all human life from conception until natural death.
Right. Pro-life stands from womb to tomb. Huh?
Absolutely.
All right. Stephen, thanks for being with us. Thanks for taking the time out of your busy schedule to share your thoughts with the viewers of Reel to Reel. We appreciate it. Best of luck. Keep up the good work on behalf of Pro-Life. And now I'm happy to turn it back to more friends, Monsignor and Jane.
The perseverance of Representative Friend is such a beautiful tribute, not only to himself, but to the perseverance of his constituency who support him over and over again. I'd like you to meet tonight a very special friend of mine from a time back, Monsignor Charles Giglio, who comes up on the Camden segment tonight.
Now, through the weeks with Camden, we've introduced you to the bishops and we've learned about the programs. We've viewed majestic cathedrals and even traveled out of the country. But tonight what we're going to do is take you behind the scenes and introduce you to the people who made 50 years of history a reality. We begin tonight with Father Harry Jordan, Associate Pastor of St. Pius X Church in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, and author of the history pieces we've presented over the past 13 weeks here on Reel to Reel. Father Jordan searched through old editions of Camden's Catholic newspaper, the Catholic Star Herald, looking for and writing about the people, places, and events that have contributed to the proud 50 years of the Camden Diocese. But words without pictures does not a TV show make. While Father Jordan was writing the scripts, he also worked closely with Father Roger McGrath, host and co-producer of the segments, to pour through thousands of archival photos, looking for just the right pictures to match the words. Not an easy job when you consider some of the scripts referred to history as far back as the 1700s, some 250 years before the Diocese of Camden was formed. But the history segments on Reel to Reel were only a small part of the overall diocesan celebration effort. After 2 years of research, Monsignor Charles Giglio, the executive editor of the Catholic Star Herald, compiled a detailed history of the Diocese of Camden to be released in conjunction with its 50th anniversary. Entitled Building God's Kingdom, the book lovingly recounts the successes and the tribulations of the growth of the Catholic Church in southern New Jersey. Catholic Star Herald photographer Jim McBride worked with Monsignor Giglio to search through the newspaper's archives for photographs to accompany the text. All carefully filed and indexed, many of the photos used had not seen the light of day since the formation of the diocese in 1937. Another important aspect of the Jubilee involved the creation of a logo to commemorate the 50-year milestone. Freelance graphic artist Scott Sullivan designed a logo that incorporated different symbols of the diocese. Since the diocese enjoys the patronage of Mary under her title of the Immaculate Conception, the theme of the Golden Jubilee celebration, proclaiming the greatness of the Lord, was derived from the opening line of the Magnificat, "My soul proclaims the greatness of the Lord." The trumpets represent praise of God. The field of Marian blue is radiated by God's light from above, and the elephant's head and cross are derived from the diocesan coat of arms. Scott also worked with Father Roger McGrath and Father Dominic Bettino to establish memorabilia centers at each of the parishes in the Diocese of Camden. Large posters depicting the history, growth, and development of the diocese were distributed to each church for display, along with an invitation to commemorate the individual parish heritage by adding a panel of its own photographic history. Two events that will bring the Jubilee celebration to a close and commemorate the actual date of the Camden Diocese formation on December 9th are the release of a special supplement of the Catholic Star Herald looking back over the 50 years in southern New Jersey, and closing ceremonies and liturgy, which were celebrated today, December 6th, at St. Joseph's Pro Cathedral in East Camden. Father Bettino also tackled the arduous task of compiling the list and sending out the invitations for the closing ceremonies. Along with Secretary Pat Garton, Father Bettino made sure that all those who have helped and have been helped by the Diocese of Camden over the past 50 years were invited to the final Jubilee celebration. It's been fun having Camden with us all these weeks, so on behalf of everyone here at Reel to Reel, we really extend congratulations to everyone in the Diocese of Camden.
And all good wishes for us with them as you stay with us now for more to come.
Pope John Paul II has praised the Catholic press for its truth in witnessing to the faith. In Philadelphia, its suburbs, and the Allentown area, the Catholic Standard and Times serves the needs of the Catholic community by providing regular, accurate, and detailed information about your church. Keep up with the weekly news and features that shape your world. Subscribe to the Catholic Standard and Times. For more information, call 587-3666.
We welcome your comments and suggestions and encourage you to write to us at Reel to Reel, 222 North 17th Street, Room 907, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 19103, or call us during regular business hours at 215-668-9842.
Now, with the advent of VCRs, people are really staying home and watching movies more than they went out. Now, I always go to the old section, the thrillers from the 30s and the 40s, and pick up a good Hitchcock.
Well, one of the problems of picking things out today is we all have our choices and druthers, and you go to the old ones because you feel more secure with them. Mike Gallagher in Arts Review tells us where that security is going now, that all art needs form, and form requires discipline.
I have a Jesuit friend who takes a keen interest in movies. Now, he doesn't presume to be an expert, but he said to me once, you know, whenever they make a movie, they should have somebody like me just to stand there and say every once in a while, don't do that, it's stupid. How right he is. Take two recent hits, Fatal Attraction, which made the cover of Time magazine, and No Way Out. In Fatal Attraction, the story of a scorned woman who wants revenge on her married lover, the aforesaid scorned woman pulls all sorts of nasty tricks. Finally, she picks up her lover's 5-year-old daughter after kindergarten, pretending to be her mother. Though she looks nothing like the mother, the school blithely hands the daughter over. The girl herself, moreover, a Manhattan-bred child who should have been warned time and time again about strangers, not only makes no protest, but spends a happy couple of hours at an amusement park with a woman she has never laid eyes on before. Does it make any sense? No, but it lets the director string together some melodramatic sequences showing the real mother going bonkers and having a traffic accident while the daughter and the dragon lady are having fun on the roller coaster. Then, in No Way Out, a thriller about a cover-up at the Pentagon, the hero learns that 2 goons have just been dispatched to murder an innocent woman in the middle of the afternoon. A woman who knows too much. What does he do? Why, what does any thriller hero do? He jumps into a car, overtakes the goons on an expressway, is pursued by them, bashes them and is bashed by them, and then beats them to the boutique where the woman works to warn her. But why didn't he just sit down and call her up? Well, that would have been very exciting. Actually, with just a little care in the writing, the filmmakers could have had their excitement without insulting the audience's intelligence quite so much. The problem is that they just don't care. Once Hollywood did care, which is why the thrillers of the 40s stand up so well. So I'm afraid nobody's going to hire my Jesuit friend to just stand there and say, don't do that, it's stupid. Stupid, you see, is okay. The box office proves it. I'm Mike Gallagher for Arts Review.
So all responsibility, sensibly and carefully used, requires some choice and some decisions.
Which brings us to Viewpoint. Now, tonight we're going to talk about one of the most hotly debated subjects, and that is the right to die. Father Francis Barshevsky is going to give us his views on whether it is a moral or a medical decision.
With ever-increasing frequency, many of us are going to have to make a decision concerning life-sustaining treatment for ourselves or for members of our families or our friends. The advances in medical technology make such a decision a necessity. The primary question to be answered is this a moral question or a medical question? I propose that the answer to that is that it is basically a moral question. It's a question of right or wrong that has an extremely important medical component. After all, we have to know the actual medical status of the patient. The next important question to be answered is, who has a right to make such a decision? Well, the authority for a life or death decision primarily rests with the patient involved if the patient is able to make such a decision. If the patient knows what is going on, is able to understand the treatment, then the patient has the primary right for a decision. But many times the patient is unable to do so because, for example, the patient might be in a coma. So the responsibility falls to family or friends, and that's where you or I have to come in and make a decision. How do we do it? We do so by weighing the benefits and the burdens to the patient. We have to try to determine as best we can, is this really going to be beneficial to the individual involved? Are we really helping this individual to live a longer and better life, or are we merely prolonging the process of dying? In order to make such a decision and to prioritize this burden and benefit question, we have to know the priorities and the values of the patient. Those priorities and values involve the important decisions of life and death and religious values, things that should be communicated to one another, to our families and friends in the ordinary course of our lives, so that they might be useful and helpful to individuals who are given responsibility for life-sustaining treatment. This whole question involves the important process of education, public education, of an increasing awareness of the necessity and probability of such decision-making, and personal education in order to help us see the priorities, the values, and the principles that are a necessary part of this most important decision we might ever make. After all, it is a decision of life or death.
Well, it's been quite an interesting program this evening. We've really covered some tough subjects.
It's been good. We've had the right to live and the right to die. Huh?
The whole life-death process. And of course, the big thing I think in all of it is the business of volunteerism and the certainly right to decisions.
Yeah, the importance of people getting involved. I know Representative Friend said that so well, the importance of letters and expressing your opinion.
Well, we hope that you decide to stay involved with Reel to Reel, because next week we're going to put you in the Christmas spirit, looking at the beautiful display at St. John's.
One of the areas of family life we'd like to discuss next week is the subject of control. Who controls whom?
I'll be talking with a high school student who's very much involved with one part of the CYO's operation, and that's called Operation Santa Claus. We'll be exploring the help that they provide at this time of the year.
So we hope you have a nice continuing Advent season, and until next week, please take care.
Goodbye. God bless you.
Good night. See you next week.
Travel arrangements for Reel to Reel by Atkinson and Mullen Travel of Media, PA.